Hey, everybody, and welcome to the evening portion of We on Wellness. Y'all, if you have been rocking with us for any portion of this day, I am so appreciative of you. Like, this has been really, truly a dream come true, and I'm really, really excited. Conversation that we're about to have. Oh, my name is Paury, aka Vape John, and we're all going to do a little bit of introductions, but I just want to tell you what we are talking about today is cannabis caregiving. All right, and with that, we have two awesome folks that are going to be joining us. We are waiting for Jason. Jason's going to get in here in just a second, but we also have Waunita, and so I wanted you guys to get an opportunity to hear from Waunita all the wonderful things that she does, both as a chef and a nurse, and all the other professional skills that she has has available to be able to share with us in regards to the work that she does with plant medicine. So without further ado, I'm going to hush.
Hello, everyone. As Paury said, Waunita Scott. I'm the founder of Herb Cierge, and I am your cannabis concierge. So I'm a nurse, I'm a medical cannabis consultant, and I'm also a chef. So I initially entered the industry from the medical standpoint as a nurse, wanting to educate and work with patients and work with them on treatment plans with regard to medical cannabis. And then I transitioned into advocacy. I have done worked with Cage Free Repair, doing an expungement clinic last year in Newark, New Jersey, and we are working on virtual expungement work for the entire year to be an ongoing process in New Jersey now. I am a professionally trained chef. My preference is baking, but I can do everything classically. So I have decided that I would like to also maximize my culinary skills, and I've started attending a lot of culinary classes. I've started baking and just sending out samples to friends and family so that I can incorporate food into my work with patients, and also introducing that as another method of consumption, because on the education side, people are not familiar with routes of administration. And I think especially in our Black and Brown communities and spiritual communities, especially, people are pretty, they have an aversion to cannabis based on stereotypes of years past. And they think that you can only smoke, so they don't know that, you can have an infused tea, an infused honey, infused foods. They're topicals, and it runs the gamut. So just wanting to educate, advocate, and help people medicate effectively. And that's it. And whatever else God puts before me, and whatever else I think that would help advance the cannabis industry forward, especially as it relates to Black and Brown people. Mm-hmm. So that's it.
And of course, Jason is on cue. Look, you see how you say, like, you just finished talking and Jason just hey Jason.
Hey ladies, how you doing? Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties here.
Don't apologize. Your timing was impeccable. Like, let me tell you, like, Waunita had literally just said, and that's it. And then you popped up. So what we're doing is just introducing folks for folks that don't know who you are.
Yeah, my name's Jason Mitchell.
Who are you?
I am co-founder of Soulful Cannabis, nonprofit in the greater Philadelphia area. Really designed to serve patients for advocacy, access, plant education. Originally introduced to the plant as a patient myself in 2008, 2009 out of Colorado. I've had just about every legal professional experience I can have with cannabis. Since starting as a patient, I've worked as a bud tender. I've worked in management across the board. I've worked in branding. I've worked in genetic sourcing for patients in the grow. I have worked in a grow as a grower. I have worked my way all the way up to education for potential owners, and then had an option to be part of a team in Pennsylvania that won a license, and built a couple of great dispensaries and met a lot of wonderful people. And amazing patients across this country, really. I can go on and on forever about who I am. So I've spent, the greater part of the last 4 years really advocating for people of color in the cannabis industry, being supported. And from my perspective, it's really about normalizing cannabis as plant medicine.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
It's been my pleasure to work with Jason. I've learned so much.
I agree. I think of course, we all agree. And a lot of the folks that are tuned in.
So we come together today kind of. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I think we got a little bit of feedback. Sorry. We can hear you. I can hear you now. Closer. I'm going to turn my, that might work with the feedback that I'm getting.
So yeah, I met Waunita through the nonprofit, and we've had a great relationship. I've learned a lot from her as well. She's presently
likewise
killing it in the caregiver market in not necessarily Philadelphia. I know she works more in the Lehigh Valley, which is my home base when I'm in PA. And Paury, you and I met, I think it was last year or the year before, at an outdoor event. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a Cannabis Noir event, I think it was. And it's been really great. Like all of these events that that we've been a part of or hosting has really been centering on this experience of caregiving in one way, I think, right? Because it's like there's a certain amount of it of all of us having a particular piece of information and being able to share that when you go out socially with folks in our community, because they'll say, well, tell me about this. I know for me it's like they see me with a vaporizer and they're like, well, tell me that. That's how Vape John got started. Just because of that. And I'm sure that folks have also come to you because they want someone that looks like them that they can trust to give them the proper information about what they can and can't do, what is and isn't legal, what part of it is medicinal, what part of it, And so it really feels like it's important to let folks know that, this is an opportunity to really care for our community in the ways that they need. Of course, when we're done, we're going to be hearing from Smith Bolden, who's going to talk a lot about urban trauma. So we don't have to get too much into it, but we know what the ills are in kinds of communities that we come from, and so that knowledge for me is helpful. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, but have spent a lot of time here in the Philadelphia area, and I know what some of the pain points are just from family members and my community. So maybe you guys can kind of talk a little bit about anybody who isn't familiar with the idea of cannabis caregiving specifically, because it's a lot of confusion about what's elder care or what's that. Can you just sort of talk about what the experience is like for people who may not know?
Because number one, you have to be computer literate, and you have to actually, for things to a lot of times function properly, to become a patient or a caregiver, you have to have a computer and not a mobile device. So, that can be a roadblock for some people. Then it's not free, which can be a roadblock for some people. And, just Jason and I had a really brief conversation today just about the cost of cannabis, which is a roadblock for many people. I mean, just think about traditional monthly pays that you're paying insurance deductibles. But then here you're trying to access a whole other level of medication that you're paying for cash out of pocket. So if you're struggling with deductions from your paycheck and struggling to meet copays at a doctor's office, and then you say, well, I want to try a natural form of medication, well, then there's no help for you. You're going to be paying for it cash. and many dispensaries don't offer discounts. So, it can be, a pretty arduous task to become a caregiver or a patient. And the education is lacking. A lot of people just don't know where to begin. And quite frankly, there are a lot of people who are in the business just to make money. So, they'll want to kind of throw a fishing hook out to someone to try to reel them in, and they'll get them in just enough to say, oh, well, but then, to get to the next space or the next level of information, it's going to cost you. So, cost is certainly an issue. Education in terms of people not knowing about the plant. So much propaganda was put out. Black and brown people were criminalized so much that people just think, this whole reefer madness, canophobia type of, they have that kind of mindset where they don't, they just think, well, if I'm going to use cannabis as medicine, I can only smoke a joint. And, there's not enough education out there letting people know that it's not smoking a joint, or even in the state of Pennsylvania, that's not even considered a legal route of administration, despite the fact that they sell whole flower. So, then there's a whole nother level of education. So I can go to a dispensary if I can get the money together, get the card, get to the dispensary, buy the flower when it's available in the state of Pennsylvania, and then I can't smoke it. So then how do I use it? So then that's a whole nother level of education of how do I use flower that I can't smoke, So, and then, learning the products, and, it's a bit much. And, people need to see people that look like them. I mean, I was raised in northern New Jersey, and I've gone to Black doctors as long as I can remember, from a pediatrician to an optometrist to a dentist. So that's normal to me. So it's very uncomfortable for me to have conversations with people who don't look like me. So then to want to introduce people to cannabis, which, if you just think about our spiritual community, where people, are often stigmatized for seeking mental health assistance. So then to say, oh, well, I want to use cannabis, oh, you sinning. Now, you going completely against the grain, pastor and them is going to talk about you. So, that's a whole nother conversation that they need to, I think I would like to have if I were in that situation with someone who looks like me, who could kind of help me, who can, ease that trepidation as to, should I be doing this as a person of God or not? And, I'm a person of God, and I know God doesn't create junk. So cannabis is on this earth for a reason.
And they talk about sacrament. Like, can we not? I mean, we'll have to go deep into it, but like, there's information about that stuff. Because, I have a deep sort of spiritual foundation too. And I'm so glad, because I do think for some parts of our community, that really is a huge issue. And it's really leaving them in pain. So, like that you said, Waunita. I like one thing that you said, Waunita, about people who don't know what to do if they don't have the space to smoke, and assume that that's the only thing you can do.
So I wanted to piggyback on some of what Waunita said.
Go ahead, Jason.
That was kind of some of the motivation behind the nonprofit creation, was to be able to facilitate, at least from a cost perspective. We have a program in the nonprofit that allows caregivers to be reimbursed. They shouldn't have the cost out of pocket for serving their community. We also took the time to create some really good educational tools, some pretty simple digital platform stuff that you could see, familiarize yourself if you want to click on it and see what a cartridge is and how that works and what it is by definition and what flower is and what concentrates are. So you can kind of familiarize yourself a little bit. We tried to, from my perspective, and I think you two are included, we tried to assist the community the best way we could, given the state's shortfalls. Right? Like I hear Waunita talk about cost of flower, cost of product in a state like Pennsylvania. It's legislated that people who, I thought personally, for people who could not afford plant medicine to have some sort of subsidized support legislated in the industry. Now, it exists on paper. It doesn't exist in the real function for patients yet. We hope to get there in PA. They're talking about controlling pricing a little more in the state of PA now, 2.5 years in. So they're acknowledging at least there is some issues that need to be addressed. And it happens to be mostly in the Black and brown communities that we're continuously marginalized and left out. And when you spend that 3 or 4 generation period of time miseducating people on what plant medicine is compared to illegal drug use, we have to spend a whole lot of energy and time re-educating people on what that is. And look, there are references to cannabis and the anointing oil. If you knew what the recipe was, there are references to the plant specifically and generally in the Bible. So we've had great success with pulling some pastors and preachers in who were already on the pro side of plant medicine, to support it, in the conversation with elderly Black communities that have been really decimated by the racially motivated illegality of the plant and what it did to their community and our community.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about stigma today because, for our community, it is big. And I think, it's cultural, it's assumptions, and it's all of those things. And what I see caregivers doing, not just for stigma, but providing specific information, because sometimes folks just can't speak intelligently enough about what they're trying to argue about. And that's maybe what takes the energy away from, advocating for themselves or all those things. And so a caregiver is like, it's another support person, as a part of your, wellness team. And other than wellness teams, some folks call them constellations. I was in another group where you call your constellation of people that are supposed to take care of you. It might not be your family, right? But this caregiver can be a part of that group of support folks that know and can do serious things like go get your medicine for you and bring it to you. But also, like Waunita spoke to, is to tell you some other methods of consumption. I've talked about ardent, vaporizing and all those things. Jason, too, about, so folks might be curious about dabbing. That's why it was really great to have Space Cakes Sunflower Space Cakes come on today and demonstrate dabbing, so people didn't,
it's great to get some clarity to all of
whatever
that
else they see online and about it being like,
even in a forum like this, to have people have the chance to come in and ask questions that they breaking the stereotype, breaking the stigma, re-educating people and understanding that there's so many different uses for this plant inside and out, and so many vehicles that we aren't aware of, or that the general public isn't aware of, that I love being able to provide that kind of opportunity for people to learn. And I think it serves our community to be educated and up to speed, so we don't miss out on the privileged opportunity that people have today of making dollars off of this plant.
Or anything else, if you can find it in a grocery store or over the counter or as a prescribed medication, 9 times out of 10 you can find it as a route of administration for cannabis. So don't be afraid and don't feel limited to only one route of administration. And seek education and information. As Dick Gregory says, information is power. Not knowledge. Information is power. And you need to be informed about the medicine and not just cannabis itself, understanding the different cannabinoids and the entourage effect of THC and CBD together, and, you know, just taking your wellness to another level.